Hey UConn Nation, it's KK Arnold here. If you're looking for the latest UConn women's basketball content, go subscribe to Listen Up to Phil and Ryan. Go Huskies!
Phil and Ryan, listen up. Ryan, how does this sound? The last check-in versus Maryland before we hit the road up north. Man, I know this is like the eve of, I don't know, what would you say, the Christmas Eve, or like, you feel like it's almost like a gift coming tomorrow, to us. Man, that family up north, the UConn Huskies family, we can't appreciate you all enough. And Ryan, yes, I mean, I just said it. We have a last check-in before we actually hit the road this time. I'm not going to sit back in this recliner out in the other room and watch the game Thursday. We have to literally, I got to get you moving in the morning. That means I got to get you rolling, get a nice breakfast going, and we have to hit the road.
Yeah, it's hard to believe this time. Hopefully, this time tomorrow we'll already be in UConn and set up and ready for the game on Thursday night. So very, very exciting. It's weird doing a last check-in to a game that we're gonna be going to. So yeah, it should we've been excited for this one for a long time. So we're definitely expecting a good one.
All right. So the Maryland Terrapins, Ryan, and the UConn Huskies. Connecticut, they dropped their last game to North Carolina State. I know you told me the last time that these two teams met, the Terrapins and the Huskies, that is, it was an 85-78 final score. I remember that just as well as you do and everyone else. That was back in December of last year. And that back then, Ryan, I mean, these teams were highly ranked. If you remember, Maryland was number 7, Connecticut was 6. So now we switch over to almost a year later, and it's kind of like a flipped script, if you will. Gampel Pavilion will be the site, and you have number 20 Maryland and number 8 UConn. Although a lot of people would jump to the conclusion, which I'm certain that you will. I don't know. We'll have our predictions at the end. Like always, to be honest with you, Ryan, I'm a little bit concerned. I really am. Now, I will go ahead and tell you now, and you can save your prediction for last. I'm taking the UConn Huskies in this game against Maryland, but obviously, I think they will get things fixed. I talked about regrouping. I think they'll do all of that, and I think they'll come out ready. But Ryan, you have a very experienced coach on that other side. Gino, one of the greatest. But Ryan, you know all about Brenda Freese.
Yeah, with Wes Moore and now Brenda Freese is definitely legendary coaches that UConn is facing early in the season, and definitely highly ranked opponents and really historical teams, very, very well respected. But like you said, a battle of two teams coming off of a tough loss, and both of these teams, of course, met last year. And both of these teams also dropped significantly down in the AP poll, drop positions. UConn goes from 2 down to number 8. Maryland drops 14th to 20th in the AP poll. So, of course, we knew about this series last year when it was announced that UConn would travel to Maryland, and now Maryland travels to UConn, of course, this year. Now, like you said, we all remember that game last year where Maryland did take down UConn in their home turf. Brenda Freese always has a really good team of players, been there for 20 plus years now, I believe 21 or 22 years now. But very consistent team over the years for the last decade, 2 decades now, actually, since Brenda Freese took over at Maryland. But very, very talented team of talented guards. Definitely do not have the size that we saw with NC State, but the Terps are led by returning junior guard Cheyenne Sellers. You got Brene Alexander, Lavender Briggs, Jakia Brown-Turner, and Faith Masonis round out the starting 5, and all guards starting 5. So pretty much the exact opposite of what we saw with NC State. We're going to likely see Alec Quebec as well, the 6'2" forward, off the bench. But Maryland definitely doesn't have the size that NC State had. But like I said, with both teams coming off a loss, I think emotions are going to be running high in this game. Both teams wanting to get back in the win column. I'm curious to see how both teams start, but specifically UConn. They started good at NC State and kind of fell off as the game went on. So maybe more specifically, or more importantly, not only how they start this game, but more importantly, how they finish the game. So I think this is going to be another tightly contested game. I expected, the last game against NC State to be pretty tight. I think this one's going to be pretty tight too, but it's definitely going to it's going to be, curious to see how UConn starts the game, and of course, more importantly, how they finish it. I think.
I'm good. You bring up Jakia Brown Turner. If you remember, she transferred from North Carolina State, and that's a team that just defeated UConn. So I mean, now she's with Maryland, right? And she is a great player, right? She's a great player. We know what she's capable of. We saw the years spent with North Carolina State. So yeah, you just wonder. It's like especially, I don't want to say this, but especially if Maryland comes out with the win Thursday night. It's like it's kind of like the best of both worlds for Jakia Brown Turner, right? I mean, you spent this time with North Carolina State putting in that hard work, and then it's almost like a double loss for UConn. That is because now you have a former North Carolina State player coming into this matchup, and if Maryland can somehow get the win here, Ryan, yeah, it should be interesting. It should be fun. A close one. And again, can't wait to see what your score prediction is. Jump over to comments very quickly, and then we will wrap it up. Marcia Clark, this was a tough one to watch. Congrats to North Carolina State for showing up to play. Hopefully, UConn will learn from this loss and play better next game. NIL has changed the competitiveness of this league. I have always felt that UConn needs more size, especially now that the league is more competitive, and it used to be when Phil and Rye were eating baby food. With that said, we have our team this season, so let's cheer them on. I think the team will turn things around even if they lose a few games this season. It's a long season, and this team is talented. They just need to put it all together, be more aggressive, and stay confident in themselves.
It's definitely interesting for sure with the NIL and all the transfer portal stuff that we talked about. Definitely during this all season, we talked about it a lot with LSU, but I just think in general for all of women's college basketball, it's definitely getting a lot more competitive. So it's definitely good, viewing as just fans as a more competitive league all around for all of women's, college basketball. We even see it the past couple of years in the Big East that when UConn returned to the Big East, definitely getting better the teams around them. So it's the competition's definitely picking up. Definitely different to what we're seeing on UConn, playing tougher opponents throughout the whole entire year. Instead of just maybe a couple here and there sprinkled throughout the year. So I think UConn's going to figure it out as well. That's why I'm really curious to see how they're going to come up, what things we might see change in this game after watching that film from NC State. So it should definitely be interesting.
This is a new name, Ryan. Angela Smoke. The team still has a lot of adjustments to make with Paige back in the lineup. This will light a fire under their butts, and they will pull themselves back together. It's so early to decide whether players are overrated, whether they should be benched, or anything like that. It's still early. It's early still, rather. We have such high expectations of UConn. It must be hard to always meet our expectations. I have confidence in our team. They will win the national championship this year. Stay tuned.
Well, I hope they're right. I
You
hope
heard
they're
it here
right
first,
about
Ryan.
that. It's
Yep.
Like they said, it's definitely a long season, a lot of stuff still to figure out, and I'm sure they'll eventually get there and figure it all out by the time we get close to the NCAA tournament and the Big East tournament, all that good stuff. But it's that's another thing too that I'm possibly looking for in this game is a possible lineup change. Not sure if Gino will change the
Ooh,
starting
yeah.
lineup or possible minute shifts off the bench, different lineups coming in off the
Yeah.
bench. There's all sorts of stuff I think Gino could switch if he chooses to during this game. But with with all the Maryland guards, I think defense is definitely going to be probably the number one priority. So that's something too with the lineup changes that we might see in this game.
And let me just stop you right there, or rather, take a second to just thank everyone again. I made I really emphasized it on the last episode to come through and comment away. And Ryan, that's what they did. If I had to read all the comments, Ryan, we would be here till 2 a.m. and we would never hit the road to Mars. So again, I know you appreciate them. And again, we actually appreciate them listening to you and I and following our lead, because we have a lot of, I'll have to catch up on the rest of these comments in the hotel tomorrow night, right? Because there's a lot of comments, and we really appreciate everyone coming through. Bond Riley goes, "Relax, Phil. You shouting like that, you'll have an aneurysm. Remember, this is the first week of the season. If they play this bad in late February, then we can get upset. We have to have faith that they will get better, and stop watching Page. The team looked tired from the beginning."
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely an early wake up call for the team, that's for sure. But maybe it might turn out to be good. I think some of the comments were saying it might be good that it happens this early in the season, so of course they can figure out a lot of things moving forward. I think definitely the focus was on Page a little bit to kind of when the team was struggling during the game, Page tried to pick it up a little bit for the team and try to get something going. It's just that not much was working in that game against NC State. So hopefully a more balanced attack from UConn this game with everybody hopefully chipping in on both sides of the ball as far as that goes.
All right, Ryan, let's go over one more I have. How about Jason D'Amico? Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch the game. Work has been crazy the past week, but it sounds like it got ugly. All I can say is that losses are just as important as wins, especially against good teams like North Carolina State. It should be noted that the last time the Huskies lost a game in the first 2 games, they went on to win 111 straight. Ryan, I know you smile every time you hear that. I know you and I still cannot get over that stat. I mean, it's unreal, man. As much as we love sports, definitely not going to happen this time, but I don't think you're going to keep this team down for long, Ryan. I agree with him on that. Great recap, guys. Let's hope we have a better result against Maryland. Peace.
And we talked about last year too, how all these streaks were ending for UConn, all these historical streaks that they went on for however many and many years they were building these streaks that we thought nobody could catch or break. But yeah, that's definitely one of them, is that 111 game win streak, that's for sure. But not sure if that'll happen after this loss. Not quite that many games, one in a row maybe, but yeah, hopefully they can figure some things out. It definitely got ugly pretty quickly in the game, but hopefully they can stay together during this game, figure some things out, and get back in the win column.
All right, Ryan, are you ready to start singing? I'm going to give you the countdown right now. Start spreading the news. All right, Ryan. Hey, this is it. I will let you go and get your rest. I will see you tomorrow morning, Ryan. Interstate 70 east to Interstate 95. Heading up north, it's Phil and Rye on Listen Up.